Hi, I'm Tom, and this video is the next in my mini-series where I'll show you how I paint the most common Space Marine chapters in a Grimdark style. This time, a Black Templar. First stage is to prime black. I'm using an airbrush for speed, but this could easily be done with spray cans. Next stage is to spray light grey zenithal highlight from above. 1, 2, 3, kablamo! Make sure to leave it dark in the shadows and light in the panels facing up. Imagine the sun is shining from above on the marine and think where would the light hit it. Then onto white highlights. I'm using my Artis Opus Series D dry brushes for this. I would really recommend them. They are excellent quality and really helped with this paint job, as subtlety was key. You can use any white paint. I use the palette here and the back of my hand to control the amount of paint on the brush. I'm going for a subtle highlight here, aiming for the top of the armour and intentionally edging the armour panels with a white highlight. The reason I'm doing this is that we'll be using a contrast paint after, so any bright highlights will show through the contrast. You can see here I'm intentionally targeting the edges of the panels. So you can see there's a blend from black to grey to white. That's exactly what we're going for. Then onto Black Templar contrast. I'm using an airbrush for speed, but you can paint this on by hand. I'd recommend painting a panel at a time if you're doing it by hand to avoid tide marks and splodges. My airbrush seemed to have a blockage as it was spraying all over the place. When it's dry, you can see the edge highlights and brightness of the primer shown underneath. It's not just one block colour. Then onto metal. I use this Artis Opus Series S to paint the details. So I painted silver on the Aquila and sword and parts of the gun. I found a colour guide on the internet from a lore website. Then I used the combo of Wraithbone and white to highlight the shoulder pads. I used the dry brush again to dab thin highlights on each shoulder, with Wraithbone first, then eventually white on the top half of the pods. Black splodges all over my hand from the airbrush. You repeat this over and over until no black is showing. Don't worry about any mistakes, these can be covered over with a Black Templar. I then did a final very light white edge highlight with the dry brush again on all of the armour panels. The reason for this is that I'll be adding enamels and oils later. And again, just a subtle edge highlight on the panels. If you overdo it, you can just go over it with Black Templar to neaten it up. I then painted white on the armour trim of the shoulder and the eye lenses. Then use a little bit of gold on the van brace here to highlight the symbol. In the lore, the assault troops have red armour trim, so I use Blood Angels red contrast paint to edge them. And then a red ink for the eye lenses. I intentionally left some white showing through the lens to imitate a glow. I then painted the pouches and holster white. And then I went over them with wildwood contrast for a dark brown leather look. Then on to transfers. I'm using this amazing Artis Opus wand. Bippity, boppity, boop. Just put the transfers into some warm water. Good soup. And then use a brush to fish them out, and then lower them onto the panels with some water to help move it around to position it. When they're positioned, just leave them to dry. They won't be conformed to the shape of it. Use this microsol to help with that. This stuff is great. It softens the transfers and conforms them to the shape of the panel they're on. Just paint a layer over the top, let it dry, and then add additional layers until it conforms to the shape. I then used the matte varnish over the top to protect the paint job and transfers. Then on to the really fun bit, streaking grime enamel. I spray this all over the model. You could easily paint this on, it's just quicker with an airbrush. Leave it for about 5 minutes. So it looks like this. And then use some white spirit and some cotton buds. Wear a glove. And then you just dab and get some of the grime off. The intention is you want to leave some of this behind in the recesses and on some of the panels to mimic dirt. So just try to be gentle with the cotton buds. If you take too much off, you can just reapply the grime. You also use the cotton buds to wick away any pools of grime and spirit. I then leave it for about 10 minutes for the spirits to evaporate, and it should look like this. So when it's evaporated, I then make an oil wash, which is just some white spirit and some black oil. It's super easy to make. Put it in a jar, shake it up, and there you go. It wants to be about that consistency. I then go over it with the oil to highlight some areas like the Aquila. I then let the spirit evaporate again, which takes about 10 minutes, and then clean all the oil up with a dry cotton bud. And that's it, you just need to base the model and it's done. If this guide helps you at all, then please comment, like and subscribe, and let me know what you think of my scheme, tell me how I approach your painting projects, and what I should paint next. Maybe even consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you to my latest Patreon supporter, Simon Neville. Hail to you, champion. Thank you to my patrons for supporting me and making my dream of doing this full time in the future a reality. There are also affiliate links in the description to the Artis Opus brushes and products that I use from Element Games, where you can get 15 to 25% off Warhammer and other hobby supplies. So please use the links to support my channel. I'd also recommend checking out the Artis Opus painting channel on YouTube. There's some great guides and tips and tricks on how to use these brushes. Thanks for watching.